Now, because I know startups and SMEs are in different categories and stages of operation, this checklist is going to be divided into two. There's going to be a beginner checklist which is applicable to absolute beginners. Say you are a freelancer trying to transition into owning a business, you are a startup just incorporated, or you are someone who just has an idea and you're thinking about the roadmap. What should you do? What steps should you take? That's part A of this checklist. Part B is for the more advanced businesses. Say you are just on the cusp of fundraising, or say you are even right in the thick of things with fundraising. You're maybe in your series stage, or you're even about to exit, or you are a more established business, not necessarily within the tech industry, and you're thinking about a more advanced checklist for your business. Advanced compliance checklist applicable to startups on the cusp of fundraising, even businesses looking for the next level of compliance in their business because they want to grow and they want to scale their business. This advanced checklist is for you. Step number one is regulatory frameworks, but for industry specific compliance. Different industries have different rules and regulations and laws that apply to them. For instance, if you are a fintech startup now in Nigeria, you need to get certain CBN permits and licenses. If you are in the e-commerce, you would deal more with consumer protection, payment security, data protection. If you are in the health industry, you would deal with more of the NHIS regulations, the patient confidentiality laws, and so on and so forth. So, what industry are you in? When you figure out the industry that you are in, find out the licenses and the permits that are required for you to practice in your industry and obtain them. Step two, corporate governance standards. Now you have moved up you have leveled up. You've moved up from being a startup, from being a small business, a new business, into being a structured corporation. And with it comes certain corporate governance responsibilities. Corporate governance are a set of practices and procedures that control and direct your company. It regulates the relationship between the stakeholders of your company. And every company, no matter your niche, no matter your stage, has four major stakeholders: the government for regulatory compliance, customers because they affect your bottom line, your employees because they manage the day-to-day operations of your company, and your shareholders slash investors because they literally own the company. Now, corporate governance manages the relationship between all of these stakeholders and the company. So things like filing annual returns, documenting your finances, annual general meetings or extraordinary general meetings. Step four is intellectual property portfolio management. Now, in the beginner checklist, we talked about how it's important for you to even identify what intellectual assets you have and go about protecting them. But in this advanced stage, now it's time for you to actually expand your portfolio and manage the intellectual property assets that you have within your arsenal. Now, intellectual property is such a wide topic and it's such a wide concept, but it's not limited to just copyright. There are trade secrets, there are trademarks, there are patents. You need to identify each and every one of them. You need to protect them, but you also need to think about scalability. Now, if I want to move into country B, do I have global IP protection to cover my intellectual property in the next country, so that it's not when I get there now I'm going through the stress of registering nationally there and I move to the next place and I register nationally there. That is not the right way to go about it. You need to consult a lawyer so that they can help you come up with a global IP registration slash management strategy. You also need to learn to leverage your IP, your intellectual property, as an asset, because newsflash, it actually is an asset. A lot of companies make money simply by assigning others the rights to use their intellectual property. So you need to learn to leverage your intellectual property and actually make money from it. Step 6, contractual risk management. Contracts, or the lack thereof, can make or break your business. So it's very, very important that you take each and every relationship that you have with your stakeholders and other partners, very importantly, by documenting them. In this stage, you should have a dedicated lawyer that is going to handle your contracts throughout their entire life cycle, from the negotiation stage to the archival stage. In another video, I will talk about contract life cycle management so that you can have, a more in-depth knowledge on it. But you need to manage and handle your contracts properly. What dispute resolution mechanisms do you need for each contract, for each individual in the specific jurisdiction? Because you're going to obviously contract with people that are not in your specific locale. What are the dispute resolution tools that are applicable across border? What laws apply? How will that contract be terminated in the event of non-compliance with the terms of the contract? How will you enforce it? And so on and so forth. That's why it's very important for you to, one, have a dedicated pair of eyes, specifically a lawyer, to manage that, and also regularly review your contract so that you can manage contractual risks that your company is susceptible to. 7. Compliance with ESG, that's like environmental, social, and governmental policies. The world today is becoming more environmentally conscious and more societally conscious. So you need to align your business with those principles, because let's face it, even investors are looking for businesses that are ESG aligned. So you need to align your businesses or your business with that. What are the specific ESG principles that apply to your niche, that apply to your specific industry? Are you in compliance with that? Do you need to change up a few things to be in compliance with that? That's something that you and your in-house team needs to come up with, and you need to figure that out. Step number 8, securities and financing. Now you are no longer a startup, a new business. You have moved into being a structured corporation. Therefore, you're going to have to deal with securities and financing. And there is a lot that comes with that requires a video all on its own, which I will do. But for now, for the purposes of this checklist, you need to understand the types of financing or the types of financial instruments that are best suited to your company and to your capacity as a founder or even as a startup, so that you don't go bite more than you can chew. Which financial instruments work for you? Do you prefer bonds? Do you prefer debt? Do you prefer convertible notes? Do you prefer equity? You need to figure this out. You need to figure out the category of the investors that you are issuing these securities to, whether they are accredited or non-accredited. You need to figure out, also, to what stage are you? Are you in the fundraising stage? Are you in the exiting stage? Figure this out, and once you answer this item from your checklist. Item number 9, we have anti-competition, anti-corruption, and anti-money laundering laws and principles. I know I kind of just stacked all of them together into one, but I would explain. For anti-competition, while monopolies are allowed, monopolization is not allowed. So monopolies is like you're one of zero. You're the only one competing in your industry. Like you own at least 80% of the market comes to you to satisfy that specific need. And that's fine. The law doesn't have a problem with that. Where you would run into issues is where you try to monopolize the industry. So you take active steps to repel competition, which is why every other day there's an issue with Google or there's an issue with Meta or something like that, because they've taken active steps to monopolize the market, and the laws frown upon that. Now, moving on to the other aspects, we have the anti-corruption and anti-money laundering laws. Now, we have moved into the world of Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and digital assets of varying degrees and types, and the ways of misappropriating funds have increased. People have gotten smarter. So you need to ensure that whatever funds come through your business, whether to your business or through your business, they are not funds that are potentially going to be used to finance terrorism or that have previously been used to finance terrorism. You need to check the funds that come to you and through you with a fine tooth pick so that you don't run afoul of the law. And also with your client, and how can you do this? With KYC obligations, that's know your customer obligations, by sending out certain forms for them to fill, collecting certain data. Again, So you need to just make sure that each and every one of these things are ticked off the list. Item number 10, export controls and sanctions. Export controls and sanctions. And this particularly is applicable to businesses and startups that have hardware or that sell physical products. You need to be aware of the shipping regulations, the export and import regulations that affect your niche or that affect your physical product, because for each and every country has each and every export and import regulation. So you need to know what those are for your specific niche and apply them accordingly. I think that concludes it for our ultimate business checklist that we divided into two. The beginner checklist, we had about 7 items on it, and the advanced checklist, we had about 10 items on it. If you're one and this video is too much and you want something that you can actually see, like something you can actually see and work with, I've created this ultimate compliance checklist into a PDF, and it's very easy for you to download and use. The link is in the description below, so just go get it and you can have this in your inbox ready to use whenever you need it. As we've realized by the content of this video, compliance is something that helps you build a resilient company, so that no matter what happens, your company has a strong base, a strong foundation to be able to, number one, grow sustainably, and number two, withstand certain issues that are likely to arise by virtue of your industry or simply by virtue of you being in operation. With this checklist, you're signaling to your investors, your employees, to your customers, even to the government that, hey, you're here and you're serious and you actually mean business. And it also helps your reputation in the long run, because now you're sure that, okay, you have all of the legal items ticked off and